right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Jason Strudwick, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. I love this afternoon because I feel like this is going to be like a scene from Step Brothers. Jonas, Struddy, I don't know if you know each other, if you've worked together, but I feel like you'll be the best of friends by 7 o'clock.
Are we going to be teaming up on you?
I fully assume that that'll be the case.
Nice.
Is that your plan, Struddy?
Yeah, no, I think I take shots at everyone equally. So before we get going, the other day it was revealed that Franklin was attacked by a domesticated cat on his front step. So, Jonas, do you live in an area that there are some wild animals attacking you, like a hamster, perhaps a rabbit, a jackrabbit? Those are quite dangerous.
I do not. I live in downtown Toronto.
Okay, but there's probably stuff down there, like a squirrel could get out. Would you be scared by a squirrel? Like if you had a mangy squirrel that looked very unhealthy, would that throw your course of action off, or would you just keep going about your business?
Sometimes you see a coyote once in a while.
See, that probably should scare you a little bit, shouldn't it?
That's like
a coyote?
Once every 5 years kind of thing.
Okay. You're not scared of coyotes, Strut, I'm assuming, right? Because you're from Edmonton, so you guys just, that kind of stuff doesn't bother you.
We domesticate coyotes in Edmonton. But how does a coyote get down to downtown Toronto, guys?
Well, that's a good question.
It's just a lot of parks. A lot of parks in Toronto. A lot of parks in Ontario. A lot of great lakes here. A lot of lakes. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Strud, but we do lakes here.
Aren't we the home of like 1,000 lakes?
Yeah, we're the home, and I guess Minnesota tries to up us, right? Don't they have 10,000 lakes? Yeah, we got 1,000 lakes up here. We got a lot of great lakes.
Yeah.
A lot of great lakes in Ontario. But we don't have liquor stores that are open. I went there last night after the show.
Was it a you-know-what show?
Yeah, it was a complete circus. Like, there's a million people in there. Everyone's trying to get whatever they can get. The shelves are not filled at all. Like, I kind of got the impression like it was, hey, we're just getting to 9 o'clock here. We're out of here.
Just cash and checks?
Yeah, like we're out of here. And now the strike, I guess, has kicked in. And what are you going to do? I mean, I found myself trying to do the math. And I'm like, all right, where am I going? I'm going up north this weekend. I got a cottage coming up in a week and a half. Like, I better prepare for all that. Meanwhile, the beer store's open. You can buy stuff in, grocery stores and all that. But it is an inconvenience to me personally.
What What's so special you have to wait till the last day?
That's a great question. And I had a number of people ask me that yesterday. Like, were you not aware of the news that this was coming? Like, why did you have to get there an hour and a half before the thing closed? And laziness is the only answer I have for you. Like a complete lack of awareness, and then laziness, and then panic. And I probably got duped into buying stuff I probably won't need. And the strike could end whenever. I think it's going to be at least 2 weeks. But that's what's going on here. And, we're going to have a good show today. We got David Perron coming up later this afternoon. Your boy Warren Foegele. Struddy, are you guys still licking your wounds that Warren Foegele's gone to L.A. or what?
I know. He's a good player. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about his journey through the Stanley Cup final last year.
Yeah, I know. And what I always find funny about like press conferences, and I'm not going to hold his feet to this, but every player does it. I think Jake DeBrusk did it. Like Jake DeBrusk just left a very winning program in Boston. Very, very successful program. Warren Foegele just left the team that was in Game 7 of the Cup final. And the comments are always, I wanted to go somewhere I can win. I wanted to go to a franchise that gives me a chance. Okay, but you were just in Game 7 of the Cup final, and Jake DeBrusk, you were in the playoffs every single year.
Do you think he should just say, really, what I really want is just the most money?
Well, I would love to hear that. The money was unbelievable, and the opportunity. Like, Vancouver's a good team. LA goes to the playoffs every year. It's not like Warren Foegele signed in Utah.
Or San Jose.
Or San Jose or something like that. Like, they did go to perennial playoff teams, and I think Jake DeBrusk can be a good fit in Vancouver. I think Foegele will be a good fit in LA. I'm just saying where they came from. Right? Like, if you left San Jose and you signed in Vancouver, totally sensible to say, I wanted to go somewhere where I felt I could win. When you leave Boston and Edmonton, I don't think you're not going to have a better opportunity to win somewhere else. Am I wrong in that, Strud? I mean, I know that's just kind of standard procedure to say that and butter people up, but
you got to say something. But listen, LA's a great place. They've got a good team.
Yep.
But it's a tough spot in the Pacific Division. That's not an easy place to go. And is it a guaranteed playoff spot? Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver, LA? Is that where we're at, Jonas?
I don't know about that. Yeah, like they stumbled last year and they got it together late.
Is goaltending better? Is Kemper better in theory?
Well, I mean,
Cam Talbot was pretty good.
Talbot was pretty good. He better be. I mean, that was now a lot of that was PLD just getting out, and they took on Kemper, and Kemper wasn't going to work in Washington. But yeah, I mean, the top end of the Pacific Division, this is what we do every year, and I'm sure this will continue into September because I'm doing this now with the NFL, start to prepare for the NFL season. And it's always based, obviously, on what you saw the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always turnover. There's always surprises. There's always disappointments. And I don't think any of those teams we referenced. Vancouver's an interesting one. Like, everything broke their way this year.
They were the PDO Warriors.
Everything, the PDO worked their way. I know. This is, maybe you guys won't come together as stepbrothers because Jonas will battle you if you're not a PDO fan.
No,
I give it to them in the playoffs, right? They
played really well in the playoffs.
Give it to them.
Okay.
What happens if Demko's in there, Jonas? Does it change?
That was part of the PDO.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Okay.
That his save percentage.
Just, it was
so
like
high,
it was a little too. No, I'm with you.
Okay.
Like, I like what
All
they
right.
did. I like what they've done over the years. Like, I think they've made good moves.
Well, I think Jim Rutherford clearly has proven that the guy is a mastermind in terms of being an
He just
executive.
takes swings, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, look at Phil Kessel, which is something we didn't reference, that Ben Danford, who the Leafs took with the first pick at last week's draft, said he was a big Phil Kessel fan growing up. And that just is aging me and you, Jonas. Like, you and I are around the same age. We've been covering this team for a long time. Like, when Phil got here, we were already on kind of the Leaf beat, talking about the Leafs. And now Phil's gone. He's retired. He's out. He hasn't been in Toronto in years. And there's Leaf draft picks saying, when I was a kid, Phil was my guy. Not Darcy Tucker, not Matt Sundin, not Wendell Clark. Phil Kessel was my guy. And that says something, I guess, about where we are, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that everyone's aging, right? That's what happens. But I guess to get back to Jake DeBrusk, I think he could be the Hyman to Pedersen.
Ooh.
Jonas, am I crazy?
I like
say
that
you?
take.
50-plus snipes
But not
from Jake
50
DeBrusk?
goals,
That
but-
seems extreme stretch.
Yeah, but did anyone expect Hyman to get 50? Like, I think Jake's got he's got a good shot. I think he's a very responsible 200-foot player, which will help Pedersen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference maybe is Pedersen. Well, I guess Leon likes to score too, so does Connor. But I think there's a chance. Like, a 50 might be a bit of a stretch,
Maybe
but
30-ish.
30, yeah, 30. I mean,
And you're
30
catching him at
5,
the right age. Like, isn't he like 28?
Yeah, so 30 for 5.5. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it is. And he's a playoff performer, Jake DeBrusk, too.
He's a good player.
You remember him in the playoffs last year?
I do very well.
Oh,
He's
boy.
torched the Leafs, a couple of times over the years. And he was on the wrong end of a Kadri. Was it a cross check?
Yeah, one of those.
Because I think was it DeBrusk that hit Marlowe and he went over and yes, I think that was the play. I think it was DeBrusk that got cross-checked in the face by Nas the second year. It's tough to keep track of Nas's suspensions against Boston, but I'm pretty sure that was the
one
second
in the
year.
corner? Was that Tommy Wingles?
I think it was Wingles who, he hit.
Oh,
who
Tommy.
I can't remember who he hit. Was it Marlowe again? Marlowe
But guys-
really did damage to this team.
That's Jarvis. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, when you actually think about it, it's like Patrick Marleau, the contract, he basically, him getting hit led to Nazem Kadri being run out of town. Because Nas did it again.
It's hard to keep track of what Nazem Kadri's done for suspension,
I know.
but it's pretty easy to remember his Stanley Cup wins, isn't it, guys?
It is. It is in Colorado. It's not hard to forget that. Yeah, and he had a great season that year. I love Nas. I'd love to see him
It would
come
be so
back.
great if he came back.
I'd love to see him come back. He'd be
Is he coming back?
outstanding.
That's
Well,
not a rumor,
The
is it?
contract's
there's
tough.
some rumors.
The contract's tough.
And I don't think it's going to fit here.
The age
I
is
don't
tough.
see it working. It's not going to work going into this season. Like, next year, if there's cap flexibility and they're looking to fill spots, although then you're a
He's
year
like
older.
35 at that point.
Yeah, I think he's 33 or 34 right now, Nas. So yeah, he'll be touching up on it.
But man, like, you think of Edmonton, like, to go back to Edmonton, Edmonton went to the Cup final and got better,
I agree.
which is
It's scary.
something.
Yeah.
But you know what I think they did, and this, I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but they found two guys that should complement, the top 3-4 best player in the world in Leon Draisaitl. Like, if you're Skinner and Arvidsson, how excited are you to play with this guy? It's clear that's your spot. Now, Knobloch likes to move people around, but he can play. Either one could play beside him, and probably both to start. Then depends on with Kane. You got McLeod. Maybe he's settling more to that third line.
Well,
Henrique.
Let me jump in on this. I'm seeing online that Ryan McLeod is being traded to Buffalo. That
Wow.
appears to be breaking online, that Ryan McLeod is on his way from
Really?
Edmonton to Buffalo, and Matt Savoie is the return, who was
Matt Savoie.
it's a top 15 pick from a couple years ago.
Okay, guys. I don't want to say this. I actually coached Matt Savoie. Am I responsible for his greatness? I don't know. I guys, too much. I can't take responsibility for everything great that happens to others, can I?
Well, you can try to, but here's where I'm going to have to trump you. I've coached him as well, Struddy.
No.
Yes.
You
and
undid everything I did.
Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Oh, God.
We coached Matt Savoie at the Prospects game in Kitchener a couple of years ago.
Right.
He was on our team. It was Noodles and I versus O-Dog and Al's brother, and Matt Savoie was on our team. So maybe it's you and I who are going to connect here on a coaching level. You coached him. You know him. He's a good player. Like he played in Winnipeg, I think, as a junior. I think he was in Winnipeg. Like really good, a lot of speed, but young. I guess still relatively raw. But that's interesting. McLeod being traded. Yeah, I mean, just as you were talking about him.
So that is timing, and I didn't know that had happened. So what happened? I joined this group called NAX to help coach these kids, and my first team I coached, this top center was Matt Savoie, the top winger, Dylan Gunther. So I went on the ice with these two guys, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to help them. I saw them skate around. I'm like, my job's just not to make them worse. If I just don't make them worse, my job's complete. So that's an interesting trade. Like for Buffalo, I mean, they're getting speed, but why Savoie? Like, is it? Like, why would they?
I don't know what the answer would be there. Like, I'm assuming he's under contract. I can't imagine it's a contractual thing. He's not a college player. It's not like the rights.
Yeah, no, he
Savoie.
played his first game last year, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Yeah.
Wow. Breaking news.
All right. Look at us, and we got the Edmonton correspondent
Doesn't
right there.
that kind of make sense for them? They've added a couple forwards. Now they subtract and add for the future. Isn't that maybe the idea?
Well, and to Struddy's point, though, if Savoie, like if he is kind of
he's on entry level.
Yeah, he played one game last year, so that would have been at the end of the year. It's an entry level deal.
Where would McLeod fit at this point if he was on the team? He's not in the top 9 anymore, is he? Probably not.
No, listen.
Well, what's Buffalo doing then? Like Savoie was a 9th overall pick 2 years ago. What are you doing if McLeod is a 4th line player? Why are you giving up a 9th overall pick from 2 years ago?
Yeah, so those are.
There's got to be more to the deal, I would think. We'll wait.
It's Tyler. They're also saying it's Tyler Tullio, which is another young kind of skilled player the Oilers had in the minors.
Okay.
But like Ryan McLeod is speed. Like if you don't have the jerseys on the back, I don't know if so I don't get too dramatic, but I think he looks as fast as Connor. Like he's really fast. Maybe not the puck on a stick. He can skate, good penalty killer. I think he's got to learn to play a little bit more between the dots. Use that speed to attack the net, back D-man off. So a nice piece for Buffalo, but Matt Savoie, I think there's a ton of upside there. Talented player with the puck on a stick. Smart, really smart player. It's a really weird trade. Honestly, I'm a little bit caught off guard, guys. I was coming here going to chirp Hayes, but now I have to kind of figure out why this trade.
Going to work.
What are both teams after here? I know the Oilers want some salary cap freedom, but for Savoie, he instantly becomes the Oilers' #1 prospect. Just like that. He's their #1 prospect overnight. There
you go. And I mean, I'm assuming if you're Savoie, you're thinking, I'm ready to play in the NHL. Like I'm curious what he would think of this trade. Like in Buffalo, he was probably penciling himself into the opening lineup where he thinks you have a good camp, good summer, show up. They gave you a taste last year. Boom, your NHL career starts. Now you go to Edmonton. I'm not sure that's the case. Like I'm sure he'll be given an opportunity, but that Oilers team is pretty much loaded and ready to play. So unless they're going to use him to flip and move, then we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Yeah. But, the Oilers, to my knowledge, have done their heavy lifting. I mean, they still got to get a GM. They're obviously going to talk on Draisaitl. I saw some reports today that Draisaitl's agent was talking and seemed pretty optimistic about the Oilers. And, he's made it clear, not that he has to, that Draisaitl's been getting underpaid for a long time. Yeah. So, okay, you're going to try to make that back, but how much? Like, you're not going to get $18 million a year or something like that.
Matthews is at $13.25.
I would think he's got to make more than Matthews, just because the bar goes up.
Yeah, the cap's going up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're Draisaitl, why would you take a penny under what Austin makes?
Well, 14?
Yeah, I would think it's probably 14, which means, Connor's 16 the next year, 15 and a half. You have $30 million with 2 players. That's where Matt Savoie comes in. Playing for $900,000.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think you guys are probably in the ballpark for the numbers for Leon. But I don't love it when players talk about I've been underpaid. You know what? When that contract was signed, I think there's a lot of talk that, this is a bad contract.
He
for
said
the
it was
Oilers.
overpay, remember?
Oh, yeah, and that's right. That's exactly it there, Joe. So I am like, I get it. You signed it, so, it's, I get it. I get you're underpaid, or you feel you are, but I don't know if you can make it up, but I don't suggest for a second a player should take a home down discount. I don't believe that at all.
100%.
This is my number. That if you don't want to pay it, someone else will. So I don't believe in hometown discounts for players. But when you sign the contract, like remember who was the other guy? It was McKinnon. McKinnon felt, and he was underpaid.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He was for sure. And but I don't know. I just like, yeah.
It's a compliment, though. It's a that you
It is.
outperformed it, right? It's not.
Right.
You can look
Yeah.
at it. Yes, I was underpaid, or you can say, you know what, I worked hard and I actually met expectations and I outperformed it, and it's
Right.
on you. It's very enticing as a young kid. Like you might feel duped to an extent when you're 21 and they're like, here's 8 years at 8.5, and you're like, how do I not take that? Like that is generational wealth. I'm set for life immediately. Right. So, that's very enticing. But he's also, like, Leon's coming up again. He'll be 28 or whatever, and he's going to make a monster deal. Like, whatever he's going to want. And it is that you exceeded your own expectations. And it's really a credit and a compliment to any player that's in that position. And it is needed. Like, this is – I understand what you guys are saying, and I can't say that if I were in the shoes of anyone, I wouldn't say I want top dollar.
You want a hometown discount?
Well, the fact is, and people always say, well, what about in your world? There's no salary cap. Like, I'm not on a hockey team. I'm not trying to win a Stanley Cup. The fact of the matter is, in the NHL with a hard salary cap, it's a math equation. It's a puzzle.
Yeah, but you know what my problem with that is? I give you a hometown discount, and you take the dollars and you spend them on
and that's always
crap.
the argument. But
then it's like, well,
always the argument.
great, I did all that for you, and you're
right.
Wasted my money.
And that's the negative argument. But what if they spend it appropriately and you win? What?
That doesn't seem to happen that often, does it?
Well, I'm sure it has at every winter, I would say. Was it Jim Rutherford? I think it was Kelly McCrimmon that was just speaking recently. And he said what has been true since the cap got implemented. The only way you can win is if you have almost all your players exceeding their cap hit.
Sure.
Like that's the whole, and what he's saying is that means you can have more great players. Toronto's a perfect example of it. Like this is a perfect, because it's like, okay, no, I'm not giving a discount. Okay, fine. You're going to play with someone who's making $900,000. Why is he making $900,000? Because he's not good enough to make 4 or 5. So that's like, and that's going to happen here at some point. Like these are all great players. They're all great players, and all these superstars that make a ton of money, they're all great players. But if you don't win, is it? At some point, you can probably look at it and say, if you didn't make the money you were making, it would have afforded the opportunity for more depth. Doesn't mean they get it right.
Theoretically.
Doesn't mean they get it right. And there'd be a lot of times you get it wrong. And again, that's why it's easy for me to say on the outside, because it's not my life, it's not my money. This is a business. There's a lot of people are naive about it. It's a Disney thing. You got it. No, it's not. You're paying bills. You got, a wife, kids, family, all that kind of stuff. You want to live the rest of your life off the money you're going to make. I totally appreciate that. But hard caps, the money runs out. And if more money goes to the star players, then you can't look at your third line later and say, well, look who we have playing. Yeah, because you're taking all the money. Like, that's the truth. There's only so much money you can take.
Yeah, it's
complicated.
It's very complicated, right? But I think that I would never want to be, as a GM, put my star player in the position where I'm asking or begging him to take a discount. If the player says, hey, this is the number for me and I can live with it, I mean, I think it makes sense. But to request a star player to take a hometown discount, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I guess, is it a request? Is it a negotiation?
I think you're just like a little stung from what's happened here. I think that's what.
I think that factors in.
But
sure.
I remember you saying, and this could be a segment of Jonas Knows Best that really bothered me.
Yeah.
Didn't really bother me, but I just was like,
it bothered
that's
you.
Crazy.
It triggered you for
Basically,
some reason.
you said what they've done here can't work, and I don't think that that's true. If their stars were awesome, it can work.
Okay, sure.
It could. They just haven't been stars.
But you could say that about it. If Bobby McMahon scored 50 this year.
No, but that's not a real thing. Like we just saw it with Edmonton. Like it's not the same.
If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah, but if their stars acted like McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs, it can work.
That would
They
be
just
great.
have not done it.
I understand that. 8 years they haven't done it. And that would be great if they played like Wayne Gretzky in 1983. It would just be it would be amazing. They were the 78 Habs out of nowhere.
Yeah, but it's
Then
not like
obviously they
out
would
of the
win cups.
realm of possibility for these
It
guys.
sure seems like it at this point. For all of them, I'll give you 1 or 2, and I'm not going to.
Good news for you, they're coming back.
Yes, they are.
Oh,
yes, they are.
Don't start. We don't need that already.
I can't do
Jonas.
this every year. I can't do it every day all summer.
You're going to have
Yeah.
to.
I can't do it.
Just battling
can't do
about
it.
the team. But listen, one point there, I'll jump in, is that, the top players holders played well, but their supporting cast also contributed, right? Nuge, Hyman, both
Bear,
at $5 million.
Henrique Brown, yeah, right.
Bouchard, Henrique Brown. Henrique, I don't know how you feel about
Janmark.
I think he's one of the smartest players in the NHL.
I've been
Henrique.
banging the drum for the Leafs to get him.
Thank
They
you.
just did not.
We are going to love each other. I love Henrique.
these
I think
two.
he's one of the smartest players.
Look at these
With
guys.
you.
And
Who was on the ice when they were trying to defend a lead? I think it was in Game
Thank you.
6.
Oh,
Henrique.
God. You're going to make me tear up. That's
Yeah.
such
Wow.
beautiful words.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just cut. Can we cut Hayes out?
Didn't they
and
have
we'll
the
just
lead?
have a
You're outta
real
here.
conversation.
Didn't they have the
Take
lead
the
for
afternoon off.
They had the
Go
lead for
look
the
for
whole
your beer.
third period. Like everyone played. Didn't
No,
everyone play?
No, and they were. I think it was a Game 5 or Game 6. Late lead, 1-goal lead.
Thank you.
You're talking with 30 seconds left, or are you
Yeah.
talking with 5 minutes where everyone gets a shift?
No, I'm not.
No.
Anyway, the point
This
is,
isn't your-
he was very trusted, great player.
I like Henry.
They spent a first-round pick.
No,
the conversation here,
I'm a fan.
Jason was like, "Oh, they can't spend a first-round." And I was like, "Okay, then good."
Do you think that would have been a smart play?
Yeah.
Do you think Adam Henrique would have done something in
I
Game
don't know.
7?
Maybe he would have scored more
Yes.
than the 0 goals they got from their bottom
agree.
6. Like,
You
come
just
on.
said he was
Smart.
defending a lead, not scoring
He
a game
did
winner.
score some goals.
He scored. He scored a bunch. All
And what
around
did
the
Do you know,
Edmonton
do you know how
pay?
lucky the Leafs are that they didn't spend? Do you know how,
How do
lucky
you
they
know?
Because they were good enough.
I hate that argument so much.
They weren't
Hey,
good enough.
You do not know that.
Yes,
If
I
they
do,
add-
because of what you said prior to
God.
this. If the best players finally did something and showed that they're capable, but they didn't. So
Yeah, but maybe if you added 2 better players, maybe you score an extra goal or 2 and you win that series, and then who knows
they
what
got
happens?
to Florida in the second round. What happened?
Maybe they win. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
But we know what happened. The year before they got to Florida and they didn't score and they lost in 5.
Okay.
I think the jury's in now. They made the right decision.
No, they did not.
Not to go
They-
all in.
They lost in the first round. They did not.
Yeah.
But
Hyman
it's-
scored. Hyman scored for the Oilers. He's a
Hyman
supporting cast member.
Hyman
never
should have
disagree-
stuck around.
That's like
Hyman
Bouchard
should have
scored.
stuck around.
Henrique scored. You know,
I
Connor Brown
understand
scored
that.
for the Oilers.
We're not
So I'm
talking about that.
supporter
To me,
cast.
that's a
You are.
false negative. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but that's like you're using what happened to explain the past. If they had gotten better players, maybe they win that first round series, and then maybe in the second round, Marner's awesome, Matthews is awesome, and they win.
Maybe
and
all
then
these things
I don't know, and
happen.
then
maybe all these things happen.
and then butterflies fly.
But that's the whole thing. You're living in this maybe world, and I'm surprised that you would exist
because
in a
we
world.
don't know.
Exactly. So then
Well
you're just
said.
you're gonna say that your narrative that you were pushing would have worked.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. So they should have traded.
They
Easton
traded for a
Cowan,
fifth
Fraser
defenseman, like-
Minton, and first
Sure.
round picks. Okay.
I don't know.
I
mean,
know.
Edmonton spent a first round pick on Henrique and they made the final.
Good
Was
for
it
them.
because of Henrique? No, but
Obviously
he helped.
not. He definitely
Killed
contributed.
penalties, took important faceoffs. Right? Tell him, come on.
Go ahead,
No,
Strudwick.
I'm with you. No, so really, they traded a first-round pick for 3 years of Henrique, right?
Yes,
That's
and
right.
he stayed for cheap.
That's right. So they got him into the web, but listen, I think that the Leafs have some depth issues and still some D-man issues, and I don't want to get into that. I
Well,
talk about
Jonas
it all the
wanted them
time.
to acquire all those guys at the deadline.
Which guys?
I don't know. Whoever
Better
was going to
players.
fill all those roles.
Well, Henrique.
Better players, yeah.
All
I
right.
would trade the rest of my hair for Henrique if I was a GM. That's how much I like this player. He's so smart.
That's a steep price, Struddy.
That's
Don't
more
say
than a first
something you'll
round.
regret, man.
He
Don't
does
say
everything.
something.
He's a good player. Kills penalties.
Do you get the
scores.
impression I'm anti-Adam Henrique?
I think you are.
I do.
That's
you
where
are.
I'm
I
getting
agree.
here.
Yes, we all agree.
I am not anti-Adam Henrique.
Anti Connor Brown. Anti.
I love
Yeah.
Connor Brown.
Yeah.
Love Connor Brown. I wish he was still here, and I wish Hyman was still here.
Yeah.
But Dubas screwed that up.
Yes.
Is that true?
That was a mistake for sure. I was
Catastrophic.
wrong about that.
Because then you don't have to make deals at the deadline when you keep the players you're supposed to
But
keep.
to be fair, at that point, you didn't think Hyman was this.
Of course not.
No,
But I
course
guess what we underplayed is like he just was going up, 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 up.
And he was an integral part of what they
Yeah,
represented
he was a
here.
core. I realized that
Toronto
the first
guy.
time they played Edmonton that first year, I was like, oh boy, I think they screwed up.
Well, now he'll be remembered an Oiler forever.
I
right?
just like remember thinking like he was their Alex Killorn. I was like, oh man, I missed that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that this all started with me saying Jake DeBrusk will be that in Vancouver. And I think he will, guys. I'm going to put the over-under at 35.5.
Wow,
35.5 goals. I think he's going to do it. He got 27 one year, right?
I think you should put it at 27.5.
Because last year he barely played power play, right? He was mostly
But he's not going to
playing
be, I guess he'll be on there.
Charlie Coyle. So I'm not sure who's first, but playing with Pettersson, you're going to get some looks. The thing is, he likes to shoot too. I'm telling you guys, I think he has one in him, at least one of those years.
Okay. All right.
Reconvene in
Calling your
years.
shot. All right. Well, let's see what Warren Foegele has to say about that in about an hour. We've got David Perron later this afternoon. We've got the Euros ongoing. You see that match, Spain, Germany?
Oh.
Went to extra time. Was electric. Germany scored late to tie it. That stadium was going bananas. And Spain ends up scoring in extra time. They won 2-1. Portugal, France is 0-0 into the second half. And you got Canada, Venezuela tonight. So doesn't get much better than this. We got Stephen Caldwell coming up later this afternoon. We got the Jays in Seattle. Brett Boone will join us to help us set up that series. We got the Step Brothers coming together here. John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell. Jason Strudwick and Jonas Siegel. Just two peas in a pod, and then me right in the middle of it all, Bryan Hayes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jason Strudwick, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic, David Perron later in the hour. The trade today in the NHL. Ryan McLeod going from Edmonton with Tyler Tullio for Matt Savoie, who was a 9th overall pick to Buffalo only 2 years ago, which means Kevin Adams would have been the GM in Buffalo who drafted him, and you trade him 2 years later. McLeod's, a good player, and I don't know enough about the other prospect going the other way, but it's funny how, like, the reaction now to Jeff Jackson and the Oilers, it's like everything they do is just grand slam, right, Strud? Like, they can't miss right now. That's the impression. Like, Arvidsson was a great pickup. You got Henrique to come back. You got Brown on a 1-year deal at $1 million.
How do you criticize
Janmark.
of those
Now you got Savoie.
signings?
Yeah, exactly. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Yeah, it looks like he really values smart hockey players, right? I don't know what your guys' opinion are, though. Henrique, we've discussed it. Arvidsson, I think that Skinner's is the same way. Josh Brown, he is what he is. So I don't know which camp you put him into, but they've added that now Savoie, right? And I think McLeod is a cap casualty. He's at $2.1 million. They got to sign Holloway and Broberg. I'm guessing those two guys probably fit in and around that number. I don't know if this makes them compliant now, but it probably gets them a lot closer where they can get there maybe by starting the year with, a shorter roster or something, Jonas.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. So David Perron later in the hour. You're out in the West Coast, right? And the Jays are in Seattle tonight.
I thought you were going to say something else.
What were you expecting?
I thought you were going to reference the ongoing beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, which continues.
Do you think Struddy's the guy to answer that? DeMar DeRozan's
Did you see that?
all this? Yes. Like, does anyone care what DeMar has to say about any of this stuff?
He was in the video.
I understand that, but he's from Compton, is he not? Like, isn't that kind of what's going on here? I have a very peripheral view of all this. But Kendrick Lamar's from Compton, I believe, and so is DeMar. Like, why is it deeper than that?
I guess DeMar was like Toronto's guy.
Was he?
And he was Drake's
Are we
guy.
responsible for him being bitter? Like, shouldn't we call Messiah and say, you got to answer for this because Messiah's the one that traded him? And I think
it's just all these lines are crossing.
I know, but like, why would DeMar have? Like, I know he loved being a Raptor. He didn't want to leave here. I think he still loves the city, but you have to support Drake, or else you hate Toronto. Is that where we stand on all this? Or okay, all right. I'm glad we established that. So
Anyway,
DeMar, are
continue
we
your
turning on
point.
DeMar? Well, I was going to ask, like, because you hear about a lot of people driving down to Seattle from Vancouver and throughout BC, but you also get people from, the prairies. You get people, I'm sure, from Edmonton, Calgary. Like, is that a trip you've ever looked into, Strud? Getting down to the series in Seattle for the Jays?
Not really. No. I mean, it'd be neat. I think I've been down there for games. Seattle, I've been down there for some baseball games and had fun. I mean, I like baseball. I've been out to Toronto. I've watched the games there, but I'm not that. Like, I like
not
the
your
Blue
bread and
Jays.
butter.
And I guess I have to cheer for them, but I don't go crazy. I'm actually a Cubs fan, if you guys want to know the truth.
Okay, so there you go.
Why?
Why wouldn't you be a Cubs fan?
Wow.
My grandpa was, and then, I wasn't really attached to any team. And then when I played in Chicago, we had some pretty short seasons, so I was there for a lot of time in the home openers and stuff. And it's a fun place. If you want to go anywhere for a home opener, that's the place. That is a really fun place, boys.
Wrigley's the coolest place, I think, in baseball. I think Wrigleyville's,
Really cool.
that's my number one.
Yeah.
It is just an awesome spot. But I am curious to see, like, the turnout tonight, because usually it's like a foregone conclusion. There are, like, 10,000 plus Jays fans, like people crossing the border. It's a big, big series. And I think this will test, how your fandom, but it also probably it speaks to like planning.
You would have your trip booked.
Yes,
You're not
exactly.
Be like, the Jays are 39 and whatever.
But if you're driving down there, would you change your mind?
No.
Like if you had plans to drive down and take
trip.
It still is a great trip. And that's the beauty of pro sports. Seattle's cool. You still go and check out the Jays. I guess you're just not going there with the anticipation that they're going to do anything positive for you.
No, we were at the Dome yesterday. It was full.
Was it?
Yeah.
They're selling out still?
Full-ish, whatever you want. Like there were empty seats like here and there, including right in front of us.
Yeah. No, they're still doing well. I mean, they sold a lot of tickets before the season. I still get the impression like people in the city want to go check out the new parts of the park.
Yeah.
Even though we're a year and a half into the new renovations.
Yeah.
And I guess they're actively seeking season ticket renewal before the trade deadline.
Is it an increase?
I'm not sure if it is. I would assume it is. I don't have the details on that. But historically, they would ask towards the end of the season.
Oh.
And this year, they've moved it up before
they
the trade deadline.
Some guys?
Before they possibly trade some guys. So maybe that is a precursor on what's going to happen. But, Jays in Seattle tonight, Gosman on the mound. And Seattle's leading the AL West. Houston's kind of chasing them down, and I think they're 48 and 41. But Seattle's been a pretty consistently good team for a few years. And, we're almost at the All-Star break. Vladdy's going again, be the starting first baseman. Says something about marketability, votes, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see what kind of turnout we get in terms of Jays fans tonight and throughout the weekend in Seattle. All right. We have David Perron coming up. Warren Foegele will join us as well. And we got a lot cooking in terms of the Euros, Canada in action, Jays in action tonight. Jonas Siegel in here of The Athletic, Jason Strudwick as well. I'm Bryan Hayes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, James W. will join us in studio in about 20 minutes. Canada, Venezuela tonight. It's going to be an electric atmosphere down there. They're at Cowboy Stadium, too. Maybe Dak will show up and throw a pick before the game. Maybe Jerry Jones can get out there and rile up the crowd, really get people fired up tonight. But it's a big one, massive match, Copa America. And we're tracking the Euros as well. Spain beating Germany earlier this morning or earlier this afternoon, and it's tied 0-0 Portugal-France in the second game of the quarterfinal today. But there's been a lot of action around the league, and we got a guy on the line who's been in the league for a long time, man. He's played over 1,100 games. And he's won a cup. He won a cup down in St. Louis. I think he's known as a Blue. Been in Detroit the last couple of years, but now he's off to Ottawa. And here's David Perron joining us here on Overdrive on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening? And David, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's it going, guys?
We're doing very well. This is obviously, really exciting news in Ottawa. I think a lot of people paying attention to what Steve Staios has planned with that team. Travis Green, you're a veteran guy. You're a winner. What made you think Ottawa was the right place to be? How did you conclude that was the place that you wanted to play next year?
Yeah, obviously I had different options, and I think at this stage of my career, you're trying to play as long as possible, and especially with 3 kids, if you're going to move around, you're trying to find a situation that's going to fit on the ice kind of for what you can bring, and also if you're going to move city, you're going to try and get some stability somewhere, and just felt like the right move. I think Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo are all kind of teams that are trying to find their stride finally and finally kind of take that next step to move forward. So it felt like I did a lot of that work, and I kind of felt like I was getting better at doing that the last couple of years. So I want to help out this team too, and I'm excited about that.
David, you mentioned how long you want to keep playing. Are you starting to think, hey, maybe I can get to 40?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm at 17 years, and I can't even believe this number, to be honest. And then there'll be hopefully 2 more, and then more after. You never know. I think I take a lot of pride in trying to stay in shape. And you see guys like Joe Pavelski, Corey Perry. And the reason that I mentioned those two guys is I kind of try and, their skating isn't their best of their abilities, but I guess it's the same thing for me. And I'm trying to kind of stay relevant in this game. And the young guys coming up are all super skilled, super fast, and you got to find a way to stay relevant.
What's it going to be like playing with the father-son combo, the Tkachuks? It's pretty cool to see both ends of it.
Yeah, you know what? That's something that when I started my career, I played 3 years with Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk, and I don't know if someone said I would play with one of their either Matthew or Brady. I would have believed it. And then obviously proud of Matthew that he won the cup this year, and seeing Brady taking part of the celebrations and all that was great. And then now having a chance to play with him will be pretty special. I mentioned this before on other interviews, but my son is turning 9 in 2 weeks, and this is about the same age that Brady was when I played with Big Walt. So it's kind of a full circle thing coming around, and I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, that's really cool. We're looking at the picture right now up on TSN2 of you early in your career, and yeah, like you said, I mean, Keith would have been 35, 36, like around your age as well. I mean, what makes you take a step back and think, wow, I can't believe we've gotten to this point? Is it more about playing with Brady, or is it the fact that you played with Keith?
I mean, a little bit of both. I was talking to my dad about it too, and I mean, we've always been big fans of Keith Tkachuk, even before I played with him. And then just to even think that my dad might get a father's trip with Big Walt, I don't know. Seeing the way that Big Walt's celebrating the cup, I might have to get my dad to stay away from him. But you know what? It's incredible. I don't even know which part is more special. I'm proud that you don't think about it in those years, but playing mini hockey in the locker room with the kids. Next thing you know, I'm going to play with Brady, and then he's going to be probably doing that with my kids, in the next 2 years. So I don't know. It's a small world, and it's so special to be a part of it.
With David Perron, yeah, it's really a really cool, turn of events. And Brady's the captain, like you like you said, you probably used to push him around a little bit or play mini sticks. I'm like, all right, that's enough. I'm out of here. Now he'll be running team meetings. What do you know of Brady in terms of his leadership and how he plays the game and what you think he's bringing to Ottawa and how maybe you can help him in terms of that leadership role?
Yeah, I'm going to help him for sure in hopefully some ways. But his energy, I think, is something that right away when you talk to him, he's always got a smile on his face. He's got that. His face is lit up all the time. He's always ready to go do something. And I think the whole team, we got to feed off of that. We got to feed off his energy. And I mean, the way he plays, the physicality that he brings, you can, if on any given night the team's not going, you can get the building going. Just like I was saying somewhere else, like chipping a puck in and being hard to play against and going hard to get the puck on the forecheck. And hopefully this is a mentality that more of the team will take on, and everyone really, because you look at the Stanley Cup champion of basically several years in a row now, and especially this year, the way the Panthers got to it from the first round to the last round. I mean, it was incredible how hard they played and tough to play against. And that's how it goes in the league. When a team wins, a lot of the teams are trying to mimic some of what the teams were doing. And I think this is a page that we're going to try and take for sure.
Well, David, you won obviously in St. Louis. You're familiar with Craig Berube. What would you tell Leaf players to expect when it comes to playing for a Berube coach team?
I can't speak anymore. I'm on the other side.
Yeah, right. Battle of Ontario. Be careful, man.
No, man. You know what? Chief is one of my favorite hockey person ever. Playing for him in Toronto and St. Louis. You know what? He gave me a chance more than probably almost any coach I've ever had before to be successful. The way we had some meetings, and I would say to guys, don't be afraid to express what you really think to him. He's a player's coach. He's hard on the guys, but I also think he's got a big heart, and he really listens. And if you tell him something, well, you better be prepared to get that opportunity, but you got to back it up too. This was, I think, a meeting before when he just took over in December before we kind of got on that run, and I expressed some of feelings I had that I felt like I could get more, that I had more the year before in Vegas when we went to the final. And he gave me a chance, and I had to run with it. But at the same time, there's many coaches that you can talk to, express your opinion, things like that, and it never gets to you. So that's why over the years, Chief is, to me, is one of my favorite hockey person.
You know, Ottawa's a team that's been collecting a lot of good young players, and it always feels like they're almost there, almost turning the corner. So, you know, with you joining the team, what do you see as some area from playing against them that you think they maybe need to kind of just dial in to get to the expectations they set for themselves?
Yeah, well, it's even from your first question in the interview, like, why did I pick, like, Ottawa? And when you get 2 years somewhere at my age, the things that I want to bring with winning culture, team identity, things like that, you need some time as well, and it doesn't always click. And if a guy signs for, I don't know, maybe he signs for a year, like maybe the guys in the room don't think he's going to be around that long, whatever. But I just think that any team that's looking for you got to get down to the team culture. Every single day matters, or your practice habit, the way guys carry themselves and kind of hang out together on the road. That's a big thing. Like I've been on teams before that, like in St. Louis, when we won, every single guy was hanging out for the most part, like on the road, pre-dinners, after dinners, whatever, and it made a huge difference. And I don't know, slowly but surely, I'm gonna try and make a difference in that regard and bring more guys on board. And I mean, that's the only reason I joined. I'm gonna try and make this serious so that we have meaningful games all the way down till April and hopefully into May and June.
Well, it'll be a big part of the Battle of Ontario. I mean, yeah, I know you're familiar with the history, obviously being in the league, being Canadian, you know, Leafs, Sens back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s. And but as you move east, you know, you've obviously, you know, played in the East throughout your career. But being from Quebec, the idea of playing, you know, Montreal 4 times, playing Toronto 4 times, like how much do you look forward to that? The idea of, you know, getting into Eastern Canada and maybe specifically playing in Montreal.
Yeah. No, this is special for sure. I mean, Ottawa is like a lot of French-speaking people in town, and this will be new even for my kids. They're almost more English, to be honest, from spending the time in St. Louis and Detroit, and I have to fight with them all summer for them to speak French, and it's kind of hilarious. I put a ice cream on the line almost every other day so that we don't lose too many points. But I probably won't have to do this anymore, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah,
and you know what's funny? Like just doing interviews earlier for the Sens media and kind of the whole thing on Zoom. I have a lot of, you know, like usually I'm used to answering questions in English, and you kind of just answer it. It comes naturally, and in French, it doesn't quite come naturally just yet, which is hilarious because just my normal speaking, I'm better in French. But the hockey side of thing, I almost prefer it in English. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome in many regards. My family's closer, friends, and I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's a great fit. I mean, obviously you've had a great career, like you said, at least a couple more years, if not more than that, and I know people in Ottawa are ecstatic that you've come aboard. So congrats on that. Best of luck. Enjoy the rest of the offseason, and we appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'll be talking to you guys soon. No problem. Thank you very much.
You got it. Absolutely. David Perron. Awesome guy, man. Awesome answers, too. Like, in terms of what he had to say about Berube is really interesting. You know, the connection with Tkachuk, his dad on a dad's trip with Waltz, with Keith Tkachuk, like that one's, you might want to get a separate hotel room, maybe a separate hotel altogether, maybe go on a different trip. I don't know, because Keith looks like he's having a great time, as he should. But pretty incredible story.
It feels like he's been playing for 100 years. Like I had to look up his age. I thought he was over 40 because I actually played against him. And he was a little pest and, you know, worked hard and all that stuff. But when you hear Steve Staios' comments in the offseason about what they want to bring in, this to me is the guy. He's exactly a hard worker, knows his crafts, good professional, has won before. Like he checks a lot of boxes for this team. So can Perron get in the ears of guys like Ridley Gregg, or even Brady Tkachuk? Like Brady, yeah, his dad's there, but it's, you know, it's still your dad, right? It's not a teammate, you know. So just all those kind of guys. Zach Slapstopchuk, a young player. Like I really like the fit for this team now. I think it's a really good fit for Steve Staios and company.
Yeah, they got to get going in Ottawa. Like they're aware of that. I think, you know, David just expressed that. Like he understands he's got a role to play. leadership's a part of it, but you got to produce. You got to put
Well,
numbers
and he
on
can
the board.
still play. That's the
Yes, he can. Yeah, like
Yeah,
he had
well said.
17 goals, 47 points last year. The year before, he had 24 goals. The year before that, 27.
really good on the power play.
Yeah, like he's a smart, like good player who can still burn. Like he can still move. So he's going to contribute. But if you're at Ottawa, you know, I think Allmark coming aboard is substantial, obviously. Travis Green's going to have to establish, you know, winning cultures and winning ways. And David Perron, you know, and they got Pinto signed last week, I believe it was, or over the weekend.
Jensen now.
Yep. So, you know, they're it's going to be the same story in Ottawa. Like big off season, lots of moves. Can it translate to them being competitive this year? And we'll see what they bring. Hour 2 coming up. James Duthie will join us in studio. Canada, Venezuela tonight. We'll tee that up with JD. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.